It's Clark and Perry on the case. Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry.
Do what it takes.
Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry. Investigate.
The activities and interests of local artists in the Windy City's finest throughout both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, Alberta. Available on TELUS Optic TV, On Demand, VidFlex, YouTube, and more for limited time only. Terms and conditions apply.
Da-na-na-na.
Hello, and welcome to the Windy City's finest. I'm Clark, he's Perry, and we're here to investigate the artistry into everything. I'm going to be joined here by Melissa Fry, also known as Art by Melissa Fry on Instagram and Facebook. And they're going to be delving into what acrylic painting. Right now I have Melissa Fry ready to delve into this interrogation and probably just about as excited as I am. So Melissa, why don't you come in, take a seat,
Hi.
And we'll delve right into this as well too. Okay, state your name for the camera, please.
I'm Melissa Fry.
Excellent. And you're an acrylic painter as well too, right?
Yes, I dabble a little bit in watercolor, but mostly acrylic.
Okay, that's awesome. So you dabble a little bit into watercolor. Is this been probably just like an extra branch out from acrylic painting, or was this?
Yeah, it was just, it's a bit of a more portable medium.
Uh-huh.
So if I'm traveling, if I'm going to visit family, or, you know, and I want to make some art, especially if there's an occasion, or I would, as an activity when my nephews were growing up, it's a lot easier to take, you know, a watercolor pan and, you know, a little pencil case with brushes and a pack of watercolor paper than, you know, like a few liters of paint in like 10 different little tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for something more portable, like, does that imply a lot of traveling when moving around, doing other painting gigs or something?
No, it's just my, you know, my own kind of personal things. Like my parents and my brother's family and that, we're all like kind of scattered across the province. So if I'm going to visit them for like a week or something like that, then it's just for something to do, because they might live in very small towns where I don't necessarily know anybody. Yeah. And you gotta do something. So
that's awesome.
It's just in case that, you know, I don't paint every single time, but just in case I want something to do. And it's also a really fun activity that I've done with just my three nephews as well. You know, I'll be like, oh, let's make a painting. And like when they're really small, the whole time is just managing them, right?
Yeah.
Trying to not, you know, so they don't like get the paint in their hair or anything like that. But yeah, as I grew up, it's just like kind of a fun activity that we do together.
Yeah.
Or I'll just, you know, I'll ask my parents if I'm visiting them, you know, you want me to paint you something? And I'll just leave it behind for them. So
yeah, that's kind of interesting, and kind of like where their artistic stories could begin. It could have begun with you as well too. And
maybe.
And you're a local here in Lethbridge.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, did your artistic story begin here in Lethbridge, or where did that begin for you?
That began in childhood, actually, Nova Scotia. I think my first exposure to, I guess, artistry and painting in particular was my Aunt Jeannie.
Okay.
So, and yeah, she's in Nova Scotia and she still makes art.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it started there. And it was just something, you know, like my Aunt Jeannie would pick us up, my brother and I, and like take us places. And she would, you know, borrow us very frequently when she had days off. And she would, you know, show me some of the things she was working on. I just thought that was really fun and interesting. It was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And of course, my parents would just, you know, any positive whim I had, they would cater to it. And they're like, oh, here's some paints.
Of course.
And then off I went.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so they were probably doing it for many years. And I imagine from your childhood, you started just eventually cultivating this talent as well too. How long have you been painting acrylically, if that's the right way to phrase it?
Yeah, sure, that works.
Yeah.
I mean, although it's probably like the tempera blocks when I was, because that's what you get for children.
Yeah.
You know, the machine washable stuff. I think I made my first painting when I was maybe 7. And I haven't been painting consistently throughout my entire life. Like there have been a few years here and there where I've taken a break from it for various reasons, or I had other stuff going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm 37 now. So about 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. So you've obviously had a lot of experience doing all different sorts of paintings as well too. Has there been one that you would consider your greatest achievement?
I I guess you could probably say my abstract painting, which is a new development for me. I've only been doing that for about 5 years. Fluid pours. And probably my new General Catalogue series. So that's paintings of celestial objects.
Okay.
So it's, nebula and just different, just different objects in space. So they're like derivative works of Hubble images, and now the Webb telescope as well. That's something I'll be using as source material. And yeah, with the acrylic pours that I do, like the paint pouring where it's all liquid, I actually manipulate it after it's been on the canvas. And those two collections, that's what's gotten me. I got accepted at CASA, the local gallery, to have a show in September 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
So I guess, I could call that probably my greatest achievement, because I have shown my work in just retail places around Lethbridge. But this is my first foray into an actual art gallery.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what brought you to experimenting in the past 5 years into now abstract painting?
I think it was very popular, and still is very popular, paint pour videos kind of on social media.
Yeah.
And also my friend Beck, my art partner.
Yeah.
They also, pushed me to be like, oh, we should try this and we should try that. And it's been kind of like a fun thing that we do together. That's part of the a foundation of our friendship, is doing art activities together.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, and actually, that's how a lot of my work has been shown. They'll say, hey, I got us in at the Penny, or I got us in at the Slice. And
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
And just to kind of help roll that ball as well too, and encourage those different experiments as well too. Oh, that's lovely. Very important. So so you've had a chance to kind of feature some work at the Penny, to make sure that I'm understanding, and at the Slice, for example, as well too, and now at CASA. Is there anything else that you're still hoping to achieve?
Well, I wasn't honestly expecting any of this. I paint because I like it.
Yeah.
And if I was the last human being on earth, I'd still be painting.
Yeah.
I really like doing it, and I'm often not even necessarily attached to the outcome of it. So it's only been in the past, I would say, less than 10 years where I've even started to maybe like some of my own work at the end of it. I like making it, and then after I'm like, oh, okay, well, that was a fun experience.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so it's only been all the paintings that are actually of my work that are hanging up in my home, I've made all of them within the past 6 years. They're all new, or relatively new.
That's interesting. So to delve a little bit deeper into that, so it's almost like you love the process more than the actual 100%. Product.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I would, I'd make a painting because I just, it kind of focuses my mind, and I can't really afford to have, any real distractions, or I have to kind of ignore everything else that's going on and just kind of focus on what I'm doing. And it's almost sort of like an active meditation. So, because just, sitting there and trying to meditate, that has never worked for me.
No.
Right? That has never worked for me. I need to have a lens or a focal point. I need something to be like, okay, you can focus on this and just this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of what really attracted me to it, is that process. But so I would do that. I mean, like, oh, I'm upset about something, or I need to work something out, and I would make a painting, and then, I'd just leave it out wherever I made it. And if someone came over, I'm like, oh my goodness, did you make this? Like, yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. I'm like, well, take it. Really? Like, yeah, get out of my house.
Yeah,
I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Right?
That's very interesting. It's like you achieve Zen. Well, I would assume a lot of people achieve Zen via different activities in life, and so painting is one of them for you as well too. Yeah. Is there anything else that kind of serves that need for you?
Actually, surprisingly enough, target shooting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because when you're at the rifle range, like, yeah, it is very noisy, and
Yeah.
and you have to treat the firearms with a lot of respect.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to even control your breathing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when you inhale, you center your crosshairs on the target. You inhale, it moves out. You exhale, and the crosshairs move down. So you adjust your body position so that when you finish an exhale, your target, the crosshairs on your scope, are on top of where you want to shoot at,
Mm-hmm.
and then you squeeze the trigger. So it's also a very Zen meditative activity,
Yeah.
which is not what you would expect,
No.
but I get a very similar sort of feeling.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, would you even say that this has maybe inspired other pieces of yours when it comes to painting or anything like that?
Not necessarily. I find that the difference of what I get out of it, like it's still that same sort of relaxed, calm, focused state, regardless of what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But the only difference comes from how long I have to spend to kind of get there. So if I'm painting like a space painting, something that's 12 by 12 inches, a canvas, like that could be a multi-day process where, I can usually only paint for about 2 hours at a time is kind of my max. Because then I start getting hungry and maybe cranky, or or whatever, I'm thirsty. But it could take me, 5, 6, 7 hours to make a painting this big, depending on how complex it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want something that has like a little bit of a quicker payoff, then maybe I'll make a watercolor that'll take me an hour.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll do a paint pour that'll take me sometimes 20 minutes.
Yeah.
To make. Yeah, that's good. And then right, it kind of depends on how much time I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. After 20 minutes, you're like, yeah, I'm good. Now I can
Yeah,
invite a
it's
friend
done.
over so that they can take it.
Yes.
That's amazing. Well, okay. Well, we've learned so far that you like to shoot, you like to paint. You've just recently delved into abstract painting as well too. Is there anything else that you would want people to know about you as well too?
I suppose some of the like non-artistic things are I really like reading. I read every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of like horror movies and classic sci-fi, or horror sci-fi, which is the best.
Nice. So like Alien versus Predator or something like that as well.
Not
too,
AVP, that is entertaining, but just Alien.
But just Alien. Okay.
That's good. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Alien and the first 2 Predator movies and things like that, or Event Horizon, The Fly with like crazy Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, yeah.
Being weird and crazy.
The Thing as well too.
Absolutely. The Thing.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, movies like that. Oh, yeah. I like my heebies to be jeebied.
Yeah.
Annihilation. That's another one.
Oh, yes. I've seen that one as well too. That one was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it.
And that's one of my favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
And also books of the same vein as well.
Yeah. Now, I enjoy the books a little bit more than the movies. What do you prefer?
It depends.
Yeah.
So, for example, so I read the graphic novel The Watchmen.
Okay, yeah.
And seeing that movie on screen actually helped me to understand the perspective of some of the characters a little bit better, to see it acted in live action. And for example, like Annihilation, like the movie is set in the same universe as the Annihilation trilogy. Mm-hmm. But it's very different. There's actually huge departures from the book. So I appreciate them separately. And some of the visuals in the book, the way they're written, it's very Lovecraftian, cosmic horror. So seeing someone's interpretation on the screen also helped me to visualize what was going on in the book. Yeah. In some ways. So it kind of depends. I often will accept the adaptation the movie adaptation as its own kind of entity, or as inspired by, because they're just so different mediums. It's almost like comparing apples to oranges in a lot of ways.
Yes, of course.
So like Villeneuve's Dune was incredible. Like I cried,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the books also incredible.
Yeah.
I also really love the David Lynch adaptation, even though there's so much studio interference and it didn't show up the way he wanted it to at all. But it's just wackadoo and like Kyle MacLachlan and you know,
That's
it's just super fun. So it's its own standalone entity. It's a good movie. It's a terrible adaptation, right? So I can kind of appreciate things depending on their context in that way.
Well, I really like how you kind of focused a little bit less on what I would find a lot of people get into when it comes to the adaptation of the story, of the narrative. Oh, the narrative changed in the book or was different in the book than it was in the movie. But I really like how you've kind of focused a little bit more on the visualization of the adaptations. Were very helpful to kind of help inform you of what the book would say.
Yeah.
Do you find, so like kind of looking for your inspiration when you're looking to do a new painting, do you find that it's better to kind of, do you personally just try to visualize something, or do you think of more like of a written idea, I guess, if that makes sense?
I definitely am a very, very visual person.
Okay, yeah.
So I thought that everyone could do this. So when I look at a painting, I decide, you know, am I going to put this over here or over here? How big is this going to be proportionally? What colors am I going to use? And I look at the canvas and I figure all that out visually in my head before I actually do it. And if it doesn't turn out the way it did in my mind, then that's just a shortfall in my own technical skill. And I just should keep painting that subject until I close that gap between what I imagine and what I can actually produce.
Okay.
Apparently not everyone can do that.
No, that I was gonna say that sounds like a very unique skill. To be honest.
That's how you do it. I don't know. that's how you do it.
It's amazing.
I mean, it's how I do it.
Well, it does make sense too, because you kind of want to narrow down your scope as you kind of like, okay, I have this idea, and now I'm going to practically try to execute the idea. Okay, well, you're going to be expecting the hiccups of like, the happy accidents that Bob Ross will say, or something like that. And as you kind of narrow down, you eventually turn up with a different result. But I don't think I think the difficulty for at least myself, I'm not speaking for everybody, but like, I think the difficulty of that idea is that we get so focused on the product, where you're very focused on the process.
Yep.
And that's, I think, where that uniqueness kind of comes from. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, perhaps. And especially since there's multiple ways to achieve the same end result. So it also comes down to, my preference. So that's something I like talking about with other artists is, so if I paint like a tropical ocean sunset painting.
Sure.
I'll start with two particular colors, basically at like undiluted at high test, kind of at the horizon. And then I add a little bit of white as I get closer and closer to the foreground.
Right.
Make it lighter and lighter. And, another artist may just put washes of the same color and then just add more washes where they want to achieve that depth. So, maybe I would do something like that with like a watercolor, but not necessarily with acrylic. So yeah, there's a few different ways to achieve the end result. So I kind of like, I do like focusing on that process instead, and maybe even trying those different processes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This like, did you go to school for like color theory or learned about any? Great.
Nope.
So I guess what I was going to ask is like, what would be the difference between, say, a different technique? Like, it's going to be the classic question of like, why is the ocean blue in this color versus the ocean blue in that color? But is there a difference to you?
Yeah, there is. It also, so I have an environmental science degree, and I've also always been interested in science. One of the whims that my parents catered to is when I wanted to get into nerd stuff, they bought me a chemistry set and a microscope. And because this is the early 90s, it had like real glass and like razor
Oh,
blades and real kind of real good stuff.
right,
With,
right on. I
like,
think that stuff got
real goods.
recalled, right?
Oh, of course, 100%. Right? And they're like, beavers, they supervised me and they're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, just be careful and like,
Yeah.
but they taught me the consequences. Like, this is a real razor, this could really hurt you, or like this here, like, you can't lose these glass slip covers and that. So that does inform my paintings in real ways. So for example, like the North Atlantic or like Northern Hemisphere oceans, they're much colder, they're more nutrient dense, and that changes the way that light moves through the water. It changes the color of the ocean. So like if I make a painting of, so like a North Atlantic kind of ocean or something from Nova Scotia, that looks completely different. Like the rocks are different, the sand is a different color, the waves they're a different color, the sunsets all look different,
right?
Versus something that's tropical, because that's very warm, nutrient poor water, so it's almost like an aquatic desert, so far as nutrients are concerned. Of course. And that changes everything about the colors, so and the way that light moves through the water. So that is kind of, I guess, maybe the difference.
And then that could explain different techniques and as to the why, right?
Yeah, maybe not so much the techniques. I might still use, I would only change the techniques in the sense of how do I achieve this particular depth in this color with this paint, because the paint pigments, like they also have different densities. They also cover differently depending on what pigment you start with. Right. So some of the lighter, brighter colors are more translucent. So if you don't want them to be translucent, then you have to change your process to account for that and deal with that. So it does kind of change it in that way.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, I know we could probably delve right into a rabbit hole when it comes to that and the difference of colors and now densities as well too. I will be asking those questions here pretty soon as well too.
Okay.
But I guess just going back to foundational questions, what is something that you need more of in your life?
Oh my goodness. I need more time. I need better time management skills, for sure. Definitely more time, more relaxation. More space to just kind of let ideas marinate, and just going out and walking around and looking at things is one of the best things you can do as an artist.
And inspirations, I can agree with that. Going on hikes or something like that, just especially I guess if you're a landscape acrylic artist or something like that, you'd be able to inform yourself about different colors and everything. No, that's kind of interesting that you say time management, because first impressions right now, like I would say you're a great time manager. You know exactly how much time you need. Like you need 20 minutes to do this type of painting, an hour to do this, 2 hours to do this. I know that I can probably do this in about 7 hours. So I guess it really kind of comes down to the perspective of how much, when it comes to the scope of everything, I'm sure everybody isn't necessarily a great time manager when it comes to their own lives. But
I'm also, I have, I guess, like a childlike fascination for the world. Right? I'm awful to go on hikes with, because I'm on my hands and knees. I'm like, look at all this moss. Like, terrible. Right? If you want to go for a hike, don't go with me, because I'll be like, I think I saw a mushroom, and like I'm gone. Or no, I'm not gone. I'm right there, but I'm going to stay there. So
that's amazing.
I keep saying yes too much. And on one hand, it's been good, because if you keep, if I kept kind of pursuing wherever my interest happened to lead. So now I can do a lot of random stuff, which is something I'm actually quite proud of for myself, is the diverse set of skills I've amassed over time. But also that has set up my life such that I now have a lot of obligations, right? I don't even know how many different like houseplants I have. And I also have like hundreds and hundreds of square feet of garden space to manage. And that's like, I could spend like 20 hours a week. If I was like on top of it, retired, I'd be spending like 20 to 30 hours a week making my yard perfect. But like, that's obviously not going to happen. So Yeah. Plus, I have the dog. I used to, my roommate and I used to run a small, like, vintage boutique canning thing that
Oh.
we'd sell at the farmer's market. It was just a vanity project.
Yeah.
And just a whole bunch of stuff. I just have too much going on.
That's fair. But
Yeah.
you're obviously happy doing all of this stuff as well, too.
I
right?
am happy doing all that stuff. If I had a steady stream of passive income, I could just retire tomorrow and I would never be bored. I would never run out of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some people's dream for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But more time is what you could do.
More time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use more of.
It's Clark and Perry on the case. Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry. Do what it takes. Da-na-na-na. Clark and Perry. Investigate.
The activities and interests of local artists in the Windy City's finest throughout both Lethbridge and Medicine Hat, Alberta. Available on TELUS Optic TV on demand, VidFlex, YouTube, and more for limited time only. Terms and conditions apply.
Da-na-na-na.